will call the Environment Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, June 25th. We have a full agenda this afternoon. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Next item is the approval of the minutes from June 11th, 2019. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Next item is three things on our consented agenda. City of New Brighton's 2040 comp plan, City of Bloomington's 2040 comp plan, and City of St. Louis Parks comp plan. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Oops.
Motion has been made, and there was a battle for the second, but I think we got it. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. That takes us to our non-consent business agenda. First item is St. Boniface Interceptor acquisition and condemnation of real property. Mr. Gordon.
Thank you, Chair Lindstrom and committee members. This first business item, the St. Bonifacius Interceptor acquisition and condemnation of real property, is for a capital project that we're planning on construct, which involves replacement of 2.5 miles of 12-inch force main with dual 14-inch force mains, rehabilitation of the lift station L24 in St. Bonifacius. Interceptor facilities this system serves St. Bonifacius and Minnetrista, and the project is located within Minnetrista along Highway 7, and a facility plan was conducted in 2014 for these facilities. The property acquisition, which is the concern of this business item, is for several parcels. There's easements needed from 15 parcels for the dual force main. These easements, the majority of them are temporary for construction purposes, and they're located within a rural private properties, commercial, a homeowners association, and one's in a regional park district property. As well as there's a fee title acquisition that's planned for one commercial property and one watershed district parcel for to combine for L24, the new L24 lift station. The property acquisitions will protect the long-term rights of L24 and the force main, allow for the temporary construction of the facilities. There's a little bit out of order with slides here. This is the location of the project between St. Bonifacius and the force main. You can see it runs along Highway 7. The rationale is that land acquisition is necessary for the implementation of the project. This action delegates the authority of staff to acquire property for the project use and to use the condemnation process if necessary to ensure timely project delivery. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council adopt Resolution 2019-162 to authorize the acquisition of real property necessary for MCS Project 802-800 and direct its attorneys to initiate condemnation proceedings for those parcels that cannot be acquired by direct negotiation. Oops, sorry about that. And if you have any questions, I can take them at this time.
Questions for Mr. Gordon? Go, please.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Gordon, I just was wondering if there is any known opposition to it, or is it all formality of, in case there is, but do you have anyone that's not willing participant at this time?
So, Chairman, to address that question, there is no known at this time since we're in the planning stage. This is a very typical business item that we present to begin the real estate process within our offices. So nobody's actually talked to the landowners at this point. No negotiations taken place. We're very careful about making sure that we have the authorization first before we begin those discussions with landowners and try to reach a negotiated settlement. That is the goal. I always hate the word condemnation. At one point, we're told not to say that word ever, but it's a reality that, if we're pursuing real estate, we have to be prepared to carry out and let staff do their full duties.
All right, thank you very much.
Other questions? How often does it actually get to that point of condemnation, which I read today the legislature authorizes the Met Council to take that action if necessary for the public good? I'm sure that's used very rarely. Most often you get to some sort of negotiated agreement.
We try to reach negotiated agreements. When I was working as a principal engineer in the Interceptor Group, I only knew of 2 condemnations that actually occurred while I was there over a 15-year period. I think they have become a little bit more common now, so it's not like they're rare, but we don't try to take property without giving a fair settlement.
Thank you. Sure. Please.
Thank you, Chair. So there's no budget attached to this. Does that mean that the negotiation, you basically try to negotiate for fair market value, and then come back to us for approval of the final package, or how does that work?
So, Chair, to answer that question, the monies or funds are already within the project. So this 800-200 project or 808-200 project has already been approved for the capital plan, and the monies are within that. So we're not asking for any additional monies at this time. And yes, basically the fair market value is what ends up being as part of the budget.
Great, thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Gorton? We are looking for a resolution or a motion to adopt resolution 2019-12 to authorize the acquisition of real property necessary for MCES project 802-800 and direct the attorneys to initiate condemnation proceedings for those parcels that cannot be acquired by direct negotiation.
So moved. Second.
I heard one over here and a second down there. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Mr. Gordon, you're up for agenda item number 2 as well.
You're keeping me busy tonight.
You got it.
So the second business item is for an intergovernmental agreement between City of Hopkins and the Metropolitan Council. The Metropolitan, do we have slides on this? I'll park it there for a second. The Metropolitan Council first authorized an agreement number 12I025 with the City of Hopkins in 2012. And this agreement has several elements in it pertaining to the construction of new lift station L27 and replacing the Hopkins force main within the City of Hopkins. The agreement was amended on April 17th of 2018 to define specific terms for the city in constructing the MCS force mains within the city's local street reconstruction project along Lake Street. The contracted cost of the force main work was not known at the time, and a budget was not included in the original agreement or amendment. The city has compiled a final value of the construction for the Met Council force main and has requested payment. The value owed to the City of Hopkins is $748,105. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes its regional administrator to amend the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Hopkins and Metropolitan Council That's agreement number MC 12I05105. I anticipate there will be questions that you can ask.
Questions? So could you just back up? I got one question that I'll go over there. Yeah. So just back up one minute. So the city of Hopkins was completing this construction essentially on our behalf. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And this is settling the bill.
This is settling the bill, Chair. So it's a very confusing business item, and that typically an agreement, and one of my favorite attorneys that used to work here kept drilling in my head, agreement consists of two things. One is a value and one is a reason. And even though we approved this agreement in the previous, with previous members of council and the chair, there was no value that was actually attached to this agreement. The funds for this agreement were included as part of the capital project. When it came time to settle, we ran into a little problem with our procurement department, and that they said there's no value on this agreement. So this is going backwards a little bit to try to correct the problem, the former agreement, and establish a value to the contract.
Thank you. Council members here.
So nobody noticed that there wasn't a value assigned to that?
I think when the period in which this agreement was signed, it wasn't raised as something important to include. This is a very difficult one for me to answer. I was tied to this agreement by the hip because I was working on the project. And I think at that time, our procurement department would have approved the work that was done by the city of Hopkins since it was bid out and we approved as a bid. However, right now, with our procurement department reviewing their state statutes and their obligations, requested that we do a little further work to make this amendment correct or make this contract correct.
So to make it correct, you need an approval from the council.
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you. That takes us to our third item, Coon Rapids L34 improvements.
So, Mr. Chair, this business item is for the Coon Rapids L34 improvements. Those improvements, or the L34 lift station, is located just at the south end of Al Flynn Park, near Coon Rapids Boulevard and Coon Rapids Boulevard Extension. This is a project that we talked about when we were introducing the upcoming capital projects, one of the sample projects. Part of the project is to basically rehabilitate the lift station to extend the life of this lift station. And we're adding 2 new sections of force main and access structures for that force main, replacing corroded influent pipes in a junction structure, replacing roof and seal roof planks, replacing all the existing 4 motors in the and pumps in the lift station, rehabilitating the wet well, and adding a channel grinder, replacing the heating and ventilation, air conditioning units, as well as an odor control unit, and making electrical and lighting upgrades. The project came in at bid. The engineer's estimate was at $4,418,577. The 4 bids we received range from $5,204,448 to $7,848,685. The lowest bid was received by Magni Construction. and Magny Construction had an MClub goal, or the project had an MClub goal of 12%, and they exceeded it by committing 12.14% participation. So the proposed action tonight is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes regional administrator to award and execute a construction contract for the project Coon Rapids L34 improvements, MCS project number 805560, contract 18P373 with Magny Construction Inc. for their low responsive responsible bid of $5,204,448.
Questions? Please.
All right, thank you, Chair. And, Mr. Gordon, I just was wondering, they look like you had 4 bids is pretty generous, but there was like the estimate from the engineers seemed like quite a bit lower than what the bids
Yes.
came in. Did they rectify that situation as one on this particular? Then a general question is, at what point do you decide to throw the bids and rebid it out? When does that pull that trigger?
Correct. Mr. Chair, this we did a short analysis on the results of bids, and part of this, most of the contract values were similar to the engineer's estimate, except for when it came to the lift station itself. And while we bid that out as lump sum, that increased by quite a bit within the 4 bids we received. Was a larger lump sum value that we received in bids. This is likely due to electrical, general building contractors, electrical and mechanical, being on short supply, and we had fairly short timeline for this project. So that caused a little bit of, quite a bit of variation. Is more than 10%, more than what we like. We normally have to come to council if we are off by more than 10%, and that's part of this authorization. It is still within our capital budget for the project, even though our engineer's estimate was lower and the bids came in higher. Is something we look to improve on in the future, make sure that we have a better match and understand the local conditions. We're kind of catching up local conditions and where we're competing with contractors across the metro area. Just when we would throw something out, it'd have to be fairly significant and involving significant dollars.
Okay.
And without the condition that we're trying to line this up with potential city work or other things that are happening in the community that require us to get out.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Other questions?
Yeah, is there a labor agreement attached to this? Are they the contractor signatory to any labor agreements?
I believe we're using on this. Well, I'm unsure, and I have to get back to you.
Okay.
Question or comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it says in the report that this is going to need capacity improvements in 15 to 20 years. Can any of this stuff be reused as part of the capacity improvement, or will we be abandoning all of that in 15 to 20 years?
Mr. Chair, within 15, 20 years, that horizon, a lot of this will be reconstructed. So, no, this is the greater plan is to reconstruct this lift station. These improvements, though, are needed because of the severe corrosion that we have in the system and in that particular lift station. I didn't bring any pictures of the wet well, but it's very badly corroded. Pumps are not in very good shape, and so we really do need these improvements now.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Yeah, please.
If I could respond to Councilmember Zarin's question about labor agreements. There are no labor agreements on this project, and that is something that we are working on internally, as been requested by the council to discuss and research that matter. But on this particular project, we have not reached a consensus on that yet, or a conclusion to move forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional questions or comments?
I just couldn't get
Councilmember, you're good?
couldn't get my second in quick enough.
Okay. All right, very good. Motion has been made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carries. That takes us to our last item on our non-consent agenda. Ms. Clancy.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'm here to present you master contracts for project communications and public involvements to support the MCS Capital Improvement Program. So our background is that we need communication and outreach services in order to implement the authorized multi-year capital program for both the interceptor system and treatment plants. The total contract amount was based on the level of effort estimated by MCS technical services staff. And if you recall, our annual budget for capital programs is around $140 to $150 million a year. So in January 16th, 2019, we went out for formal solicitation, and we received 10 proposals, which is really good because when I started at the council in 2014 was our first master contracts on communications, and I think we got 2 firms that proposed. So I'm pretty glad that we are getting more and more interest for people to participate. Our proposal evaluations were evaluated by 3 MCES staff and then 1 staff representative for our regional communications staff. And the proposals were evaluated based on strength and the ability to provide communication needs to MCS Capital Improvement Program. And so we're recommending that the contracts be awarded in the following amounts: $500,000 to HDR, $400,000 to Zan and Associates, $275,000 to Bolton and Mink, $225,000 to WSB and Associates, and $100,000 to Black and Beach. On the MClub goals, so the MClub goals are oftentimes based on the ability for a firm to do subcontracting or for subcontracting to be available on the work. You know, back in the day when there was a lot of printed material that was delivered, subcontracting was something that we could do more of. We don't print that much material anymore. We still do a lot of door hangers and development of contract signs, and so we really encourage our firms to use disadvantaged businesses or MCubs on those aspects. So the Office of Equal Opportunity did not assign a specific goal. However, procurement staff reviewed the directory and contacted any potential DBE and MCub vendors, and Zan and Associates is a DBE and a women-owned business enterprise and was recommended at an award of $400,000. And they have been a consistent winner of a contract and have done a lot of work for us very successfully. So our proposed action this evening is that the Metropolitan Council authorize its regional administrator to award and execute master contract 18P381 for communications and engagement related to MCS capital projects to HDR, Zan and Associates, Bolton and Mink, WSB and Associates, and Black and Beach, totaling $1.5 million. And I just wanted to mention that this work is done in very close collaboration with our council communication staff. So, for example, we developed in 2014 this booklet, which is our protocol on how we do capital program engagement and roles and responsibilities, so that all of our work, even though we have a variety of consultants working with us, to the public, we're MCES, we're the same group, people aren't being treated differently, and we work very closely with the communities as well to make sure that our projects are not burdensome on the community staff.
So Take us through an example. So we just approved a big improvement for the Coon Rapids lift station. What might people or businesses in that general area expect to see in terms of communications?
Absolutely.
Signage, you mentioned door hangers.
Yes.
What
So
else
on that,
besides that?
Councilman, Mr. Chair and Council, on that particular project, and I'm pretty familiar with the Coon Rapids area because it's near where I live, it's right on the vicinity of a park. So we don't have as many property owners that are impacted, but we have park users that are impacted. So we'll do signs. We will have a ongoing project website in which people can sign up for Gov delivery updates, and we have I just had my assistant just gave me a list of the number of people that are registered already for the project in Minneapolis. We have almost 600 people registered for our Gov delivery notifications. So we have a lot of people registering for these notifications. Um, in the event that we do, we will, in the event that we do have an impact to businesses or residents, we will include door hangers, letters, electronic notification, um, and then sometimes, and then also there are times when we just do neighborhood meetings. If we have a project that's has a lot of impact, for example, the project out in Mound that's going on right now. We had a neighborhood meeting at the beginning of the project, and we've had a couple during the course of construction as well, just to keep people informed. And these communication consultants don't start with us during the construction piece. They're with us through the whole design phase to help us identify the stakeholders and identify how to we make sure that we're engaging people during the design of our project.
Thank you. Question.
Janine, I just wanted to commend you and the staff for this work. At the MCES budget workshop, as I was leaving, I was talking with a woman whose name is now escaping me from Oak Park Heights, and she just praised the outreach work that MCES has done, and just phenomenal. So thank you all, and to the former council as well. It's hard to keep people happy when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. And you guys do a really good job. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone the other day, and she has a road construction project happening in her neighborhood, and she was exasperated because she's like, I don't know when they're doing things. They're closing down my alley and then not doing any work, but then da da da. It was just like communication, so vitally important, as you are well aware. Other questions or comments? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I think it would be helpful just for our information to have a little more specifics in terms of what resources are going to the various components of the outreach. And then I guess one specific question I have is, are we enlisting, say, paid canvassers to go door to door?
Mr. Chair and members of the council, we have not enlisted paid canvassers, although I will tell you that we have had projects and from time to time, well, the door hangers, for example, oftentimes people will answer the door if we knock on the door. We do sometimes, if we're having a hard time getting people to come to a neighborhood meeting, we will go door to door with information. And oftentimes when we have neighborhood meetings, we try to solicit and get people to sign up for our electronic delivery. But as you know, depending on the age of the community, folks may not want to have electronic information. And so we still work really hard to deliver our information through various means. Another thing that we do is that we look at census data to see if we have areas where we have non-English speaking communities, and we'll make sure that we translate our information. We also work with local community staff because oftentimes they'll know in that community if there is a population that may need some additional resources, whether it be at a neighborhood meeting where we have interpreters or we have someone who does American Sign Language. We provide that information because it's really important that we engage people up front so that they know who to call if they need help during the construction project.
Please.
And just to follow up, so, I think that if we were, if some of these resources were passed through to an entity that did pay canvassing or tabling at community meetings, I guess I would be interested to know if, because I don't believe the council has like a $15 minimum wage policy, right? But um, I guess from my standpoint, it would be relevant whether or not the people on the ground were actually making the minimum wage versus a living wage or earning other benefits.
Okay, thank you. I can look into that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sterner.
All right, thank you, Chair. And Mrs. Clancy, I kind of got the policy, but I didn't quite get like really the depth of like why 5 companies and now 2 or 3 can't do it. And even, I'm looking at $1.5 million of great internship program and communication about hiring their own technical staff that would do this with maybe summer help with canvassing. Why we don't do this in-house instead of hiring out?
Sure. Mr. Chair and council members, so one of the reasons that we don't do this in-house is because our work really ebbs and flows, and so we have to put a lot of resources on a project, and then we pull back, and so the consulting groups can actually adjust to that a little bit better, because oftentimes these firms are doing work for transit and they're doing work for MnDOT and they're doing work for the counties, and so they're able to put resources on it and then pull back when needed. The reason for 5 firms is that a couple years ago we started evaluating how we are doing our capital projects, and one of the things that we determined is that we were doing really a great job engaging external customers, but we needed to do a little bit better job engaging our internal operations and maintenance folks. So some of the work that we've identified here will actually work toward better engagement of our operations and maintenance staff as we're designing the projects. There's a lot of tools out there to do visualizations, to do animations, so that people can really figure out what we're laying out and whether or not they will be in a good position to operate and maintain that facility once it's built. Because not everyone can look at very technical drawings and really interpret and see what that might be in the field. And so some of this, for example, the work that Black and Beach has been identified, most likely will be work to help us better engage our own staff.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So I think you just answered my question, my next question. I was going to ask something along the lines of why these companies seem to be more not like your standard communication companies. And is that because they are interpreting technical documents, so they need a high level of technical expertise? Translate it for the rest of us?
Sure, Mr. Chair and members of the council. Zan and Associates, truly, Charlene Zimmer is a planner by education, and she worked for a transportation company for years, doing outreach on large projects, and then she's formed her own firm. The rest of the firms are, in fact, all engineering firms that have a very, very strong communications group associated with them. And yes, when they do the work, for example, they attend our construction meetings and they listen to what the contractor and what our staff is talking about, and they take that information from a technical viewpoint and make it understandable for the general public to hear. And I think it is pretty hard if you're not working in this environment on a routine basis to figure out what's going on and then be able to relay that information. And it is a lot of times very complicated, multi-jurisdictional work that needs to be communicated clearly to the public. So it does require a special skill.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. I have one more question here. Can you say why did the Office of Equal Opportunity choose not to assign any DBE or MClub goals?
Mr. Chair and members of the council, there are not a lot of subcontracting opportunities on these contracts, and generally speaking, that is where they will assign the goals. However, they did, in fact, work with us to try to solicit, to the extent possible, eligible firms, and then we have asked our communications consultants in the past to work with the council on achieving its goals by using DBE for printing firms and those types of things. And as I mentioned, SAN is a DBE.
And so, in this, just to follow up on that, then, so this gets back to, it was like as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh yes, of course, this is the same as construction as it relates to subcontracts, and I guess it just gets to this larger issue that I continue to struggle with, which is why, if we are doing like direct bids or awards to women-owned or minority-owned businesses, that would not somehow, qualify towards reaching some kind of goal or broader goal, or that we wouldn't elevate that, I guess, in terms of, and you did obviously indicate that there was one firm here that got $400,000 of work, right? But I just think that gets lost when there's kind of no goal up front.
Mr. Chair, we do count this toward our DBE goal. When we look at our overall accomplishments for the year, we will count this in the goal, in the value of our work that we've been able to accomplish.
Okay, thank you.
Great, that's good to know.
Good discussion.
Yeah. Other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carries. Thank you very much. And that takes us to our final item, General Manager's Report.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I've got the opportunity to talk about 3 events for you coming up, so it's unusual. But today you took actions on an L24, an L27, an L34, so a lot of lift stations in our system. And you have an opportunity to have a firsthand experience with a lift station, so it'll be more than an L to you going forward. So there's a tour. We're going to take you around to see some capital project, interceptor, and actually some of our water quality monitoring. So hopefully that'll work into your schedule. It's July 29th. It's 10 a.m. to 2:30, and what we really need from you is to RSVP to Susan Taylor's invitation if you're planning to attend. And before that day, we'll make sure you've got everything in order that you need to make that be a good experience. But we're excited on our side that you guys are interested in this. So I think we'll make it very worthwhile for you. Any questions on that one? If not, I'll move on to the other events.
I already have my RSVP,
All right,
and it's
so-
going to be great.
All right, so the other 2 are coming up in July as well. So we talk about NACWA, National Association of Clean Water Agencies. They're having their National Utility Leadership Conference in Minneapolis this year, so that's a first. We're excited to be the host for that, and actually I'm hearing a lot of people are excited to come to Minneapolis for this, so we don't think they'll be disappointed. It's going to be at the Lowe's Hotel in Minneapolis, and the theme for the event is Building a Network of Influence, Utility Executive Leadership in a Changing World. And Susan tells me she inserted the in your packets what the agendas are. We have some staff that are going to be presenting during that conference. We think they've got some great messages. We know, I think you have a conflict with the Thursday with the council retreat, so that'll make it a little bit problematic for you depending upon what you were interested in. But we can certainly come back and share to you as an info item if you're interested in those that you won't be able to attend for. Possibly the Thursday evening might be something that your schedule would allow, depending upon how your date lays out for your retreat. But that evening, MCS, in addition to the Peak Platinum Performance Awards that we get for our plants that are platinum, continuous compliance of our regulatory requirements, we are also going to be receiving a Gold Excellence in Management Award. There's 10 different categories, and you have to meet a certain number of those and demonstrate how you're doing that in order to get an award. So we are excited, and that's going to be at the Nicollet Island Pavilion. And so if you want to attend that but can't get to the rest, just let Susan know, and we'll make sure that you're set up and registered and have all the information you need to do that. And hoping that the chair will be able to be there to be part of accepting the award. And if
Me too.
if his schedule works out okay, then that'll be the case. So, 3 events. Hope you can come to all.
And I see that we're going to be presenters at the NACWA. Ms. Clancy, you're going to be speaking, and probably a few others. That's great. Great affirmation that others believe we're doing a good job. Question?
Did I miss the third event?
So the third event is the awards ceremony
okay.
as part of the conference.
We'll
So
do
they're
a
actually
conference. So
one conference, but
Yep.
there's 2 pieces to it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's very good.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the committee? We are adjourned.